There's an FA probe and the probability of a one-match ban. Mertesackers bust up with Mesut Ozil as they walked off the field yesterday. Ozil didn't go and salute the Arsenal supporters who travelled to Manchester yesterday. He later apologised in a tweet to the Sunday People. Rout and lout. 6 goals for City, but the lout is Jack Wilshere, according to the People this morning. It's all gone wrong on the back of the Sun. It's definitely gone wrong for Steve Clarke. He was sacked by West Brom last night. Big surprise there after their 4th successive defeat. They're now looking for a new manager. The Star on Sunday. On your barks, get set. Will he go? Ross Barkley, sensational for Everton at Arsenal at the Emirates last weekend in their draw. He's on his way, according to Paul Hetherington. Could be going to Manchester City or could be going to Manchester United. The Sunday Express, John's paper, Moyes going to splash the cash. A January splurge, £25–26 million. We'll ask John about the players that United are going to sign later in the programme. Bob Cass's story in the Mail on Sunday. Players face a new betting ban. This is a new clampdown on players. They're already not allowed to bet on matches involving their own teams. This could extend throughout football, though. More on that story later on. Some of the broadsheets, the Sunday Times. Jack's on the rack. He'll be in trouble for that salute towards City supporters yesterday. Steve Clarke fired by West Brom. That's made it, as you would imagine, into every paper. They got 49 points last season, but expected to be improved this season under Steve Clarke. They said that it was the biggest wage bill in the club's history in their statement last night. This is the Observer, 6 and the City. Brilliant performance by Manchester City yesterday. Some of the sports pullouts, the goals pullouts. This is the People. Sissoko, referee Mike Jones, knocked over yesterday at St James's Park during the 1-1 draw between Newcastle and Southampton. More on that shortly. Chelsea striker scores. It's Fernando Torres. They don't score very often, but they got 2 yesterday. They beat Crystal Palace at Stamford Bridge. Jack Wilshere's day of shame, though. Arsenal's day of shame, though, was it, John? Because you were at the game yesterday. They lost 6-3. They lost against Napoli in the week. They drew with Everton last weekend. But what do you make of Manchester City's performance first?
City were absolutely awesome. It was like a tidal wave of attacking, and Arsene Wenger must have felt like King Canute there. Just, you know, he just couldn't stop it. They were absolutely awesome. They've got power, they've got panache. I mean, you look at the strikers. Sergio Aguero must be one of the best strikers in the world, and he went off when it was 1-0. You know, so Negredo is on fire. It's just awesome. They've got Fernandinho, had a fantastic game. You know, a lot of people looked 30 million. You know, that's a lot of money. But he came of age, 2 fantastic goals. Him and Yara Toure just tore Arsenal's midfield to bits. They were just absolutely awesome. And you look at them and you think, they've got to win the title. But this is at home, of course. 35 goals in 8 home Premier League games, fantastic. But away from home, they've lost 4 games. Yep. That's where Pellegrini's got to get it right. But that squad is, I think, the most powerful squad, certainly the most attacking squad in the Premier League. And for me, it's City's title to lose.
Is it the best squad we've ever seen in the Premier League? Because they made 8 changes from the team that beat Bayern Munich in the week.
That's difficult to say. I mean, there's been some good squads. I mean, Arsenal would argue the Invincible side, the one in 2004 was the best. Manchester United can go back to a couple of Sir Alex Ferguson sides. But I'll tell you what, in attacking prowess, I've seen very few better. Maybe Kevin Keegan's Entertainers, got to get that in the 90s, Newcastle. They were fantastic to watch. You just wanted to go to St James's Park. You couldn't wait to get there to watch those games, you know. And I think going to the Etihad now with Manchester City is very similar. They're fantastic to watch.
It's interesting that we're talking about City just about football now. Previously, it was always concentrating on other things first and then the football. Even when they won the league, you still Balotelli this, Balotelli that. And it was a lot of Tevez, lots of distractions. We go to City now and say, oh, I wonder how many they're going to get today. And it's entertaining, it's a joy to watch. And when Sheikh Mansour splashes out all this money, you do expect entertaining football. That's what you want. We were getting a lot of entertainment off the field, but not always on the field. I mean, look, when they won the league, it was a brilliant end to the season and that. But they weren't playing the stylish football they're playing now.
They ground it out, didn't they?
Well, interestingly, you say about that, Sean. You go to the training ground now, there's no line of photographers trying to take pictures, you know, through the bushes of hiding the hedge for bus-stops, because it has gone quieter.
Yeah. Pellegrini's influence on that Manchester City's team, Sean just mentioned Roberto Mancini and the way that he ran the very, very different way of running the club and different style. But Pellegrini seems to have changed. The atmosphere seems to have changed quite radically markedly since he arrived at the club.
Yeah, I mean, his press conferences are awful.
He's first one.
He's hard work for us, to say the least. But yeah, I mean, Mancini seemed to thrive on confrontation. You know, inside it wasn't just the players either. It was the masseurs, it was the physio. I mean, it was daily, wasn't it? You'd hear a story about a bust-up with someone. I mean, you know, fans wondered if we were over-egging it. Half the stuff didn't even make the papers, you know, because people... You heard rumours, a lot of them subsequently turned out to be true. But yes, Pellegrini, he's obviously, there was the new Spanish hierarchy came in, they wanted their own man. Pellegrini had a pretty solid pedigree, but not won a lot of trophies, but I think he's going to win a few at City. There's still, I mean, I thought he's brought Navas in to get some pace, and one thing Mancini always played a very narrow team. Brought Navas in to get some width. Negredo looks like a fantastic signing. They've still spent. You know, we shouldn't forget how much they spent. I mean, they got Jovetic, who's hardly played a game. So you know, they have thrown, you know, money beyond anything that Arsenal, United, or their rivals, even Chelsea, in recent years can compare. They should expect to win the league.
Will we have if they do go and win the league, though, Matt, with the amount of money they spend? Will that be used? Will that be held against them because they've spent extraordinary sums of money? Huge transfer fees and also huge salaries at the club. Will they be constantly reminded of that, or will we look at that team and think, actually, they've created one of the best teams in the Premier League?
Well, I think that's the critical thing about the entertainment. I think that sort of argument about buying the league tends to sort of move down the agenda when a team is dazzling, you know, because people just want, you know, and that's the whole Abramovich argument, wasn't it? If he was always wanted, you know, I'm going to spend this sort of money. I want to see us play football that the world talks about, and you know, City aren't there yet, but they're showing signs of being a team that, you know, the country loves, and then they're hoping obviously that develops their reputation around the world.
All winning sides have paid a lot of money. Manchester United, I mean Arsenal, even, I mean Chelsea definitely. We've got to give Roberto Mancini some credit. I mean, he did build the side, you know. All right, he was more pragmatic, typical Italian, but they did win the league. And to be fair, they would not have as bad a away record as we've got now under Mancini, but at the same time, they lacked a little bit of flair. But he did win the league, did win the FA Cup, so you've got to give him credit as well.
It's interesting what Matt says about the about Pellegrini, though. I went to Pellegrini's first press conference, the unveiling. They also did it with Fernandinho. Fernandinho didn't speak any English. Pellegrini looked like a man who didn't really want to be doing a press conference. No. And we came at that going, it's going to be pretty dull here this season, unless they've got a great side. And, of course, they have got a great side, and that's what Pellegrini wanted. He wanted the football to be up front. He doesn't strike me as a man who wants to be himself the centre of the attention. He perhaps becomes the centre of attention when he does things like leave Joe Hart out of the team, but that is you're questioning a tactical decision there. But it's the football that's doing the talking. I think that's the best thing that can happen to Manchester City.
I think he was a bit uneasy in the cameras at Real Madrid as well, wasn't he? I mean, I know he was only there for a season, but again, they let the football do the talking. I know he got sacked because they didn't win the league.
Yeah, but if they do win the league, I think, you know, even more we'll be talking about. Last season was a season that got away from them, and which is why Mancini had to go. I mean, the fact is, I think we all thought they had the best squad last season. They should. It was their title, and they messed up last year.
Do they have any vulnerabilities that yesterday conceded 3 goals, but they look obviously awesome going forward. But have they got any vulnerabilities?
I don't rate the goalkeeper. I still think Joe Hart is the better keeper, but Pellegrini obviously thinks otherwise, and I'm told that he doesn't fancy Joe Hart long term, which is bad for England. I mean, I still think Joe Hart is a very good goalkeeper, and I'd like, you know, as a Manchester City fan, I'd like to see him in goal. I think the most important thing for City to win
City fans want to see him in goal.
I think most people do, yeah. But the most important thing for the defence for me is Vincent Kompany. You know, if they can keep Kompany fit, then I think they've got a better chance. He was superb yesterday, but as we know, he has had injury problems, and they definitely miss him. You know, without Kompany, I think City are vulnerable. I know they let in 3 goals yesterday, but you know, generally speaking, with Kompany in the side, that they're more secure.
Yeah, he stays central, doesn't he? Which is what he did yesterday. Let's have a look at the Sunday Mirror and Arsenal, because this is their take on it. Sheer madness, and it's got the cracks in the badge, and that's because they've had a bad week. They drew at home to Everton last week. They lost against Napoli, and they're now in the second seeding pots in the Champions League, drawing Neon tomorrow. But also Andy Dunn's piece, which he was at the game yesterday, he was at the Etihad Stadium, Sean, and he said that the stark reality is that Arsene Wenger's squad has neither the strength nor the depth to win the Premier League title. Do you agree with him?
Well, we've been talking since the start of this season that if Giroud, well, since he got going, if Giroud was injured or went through a bad patch of form, they're going to have problems. I think that's coming home to roost now. They don't have that firepower up front, which, well, you watch City and you think, goodness me. And yes, they do score lots of goals from time to time, but that is showing up now. And Giroud is bound to get tired at some point. He was bound to start feeling the effects. People are going, yesterday, he had a bit of a nightmare yesterday, Giroud. Well, you know, he was due. He's probably due one. Also, they've played the big team. They play Man United, they play City, and they lose, and everything like that. Arsene Wenger was complaining about the fixtures, saying, oh, it's unfair, we've got all these together now. But he doesn't say how the easy fixtures at the start of the season built a great momentum for them, so that bred confidence throughout the club, meaning that when they were going into these games, they should have a bit more confidence about them. You know, they were given a nice start to the season, and this is the test of their mettle, and so far they've failed in it.
Yeah, I do think, though, he didn't make an excuse, in fairness to him, after the game, Wenger.
He did before, though.
Yeah, but I thought it was...
But they've got 9 days off between the game yesterday and the Chelsea game. It's 9 days.
You know, to play Wednesday night and then Saturday morning in the Premier League. I mean, the Premier League, let's be honest, they don't give a stuff about our teams in Europe. You know, they just think about themselves. You know, it's selfish, it's greedy, but it's a fantastic product. You can't...
How do you rearrange the fixtures, though? I don't really understand how you can do it.
Well, it's easy.
Well, what about the Europa League teams? Then you offend them. How do you decide who should play who to make everybody happy?
I don't think you should play on a Wednesday night than a Saturday morning. Surely that can be switched to Sunday.
But that'll be one instant, then somebody else will
but just
say...
a minute.
Would you have complained if the kick-off was at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, giving them an extra 2 hours and 15 minutes?
No. I think he wanted the game played on the Sunday, and he's quite right about that. I mean, look at the German sides. If they're in Europe, they sometimes play on a Friday night. You know, the league actually helps them. Now, all right, a lot of people think, oh, well, why should the Premier League help them? But I think they should. I mean, they are flying the flag for this country. I know the Premier League doesn't help England. It doesn't help our top clubs either, you know, when it comes to European competition.
The TV wants matches at certain times as well. You both got Sky here, you got BT Sport, you got...
Right.
They want matches at particular times to suit the schedules
Well,
throughout the weekend.
why can't Sunday then be switched to Saturday that hasn't got the game, and then Arsenal playing...
Somebody else would
I'm not just
complain
going
about other
fixtures.
Someone else would complain about other
Manchester
fixtures
United.
at different times. It's very difficult to keep everybody happy. What about the teams in relegation zone saying, I don't think it's fair that our game's been moved to a Sunday? I'm just saying...
I'm not sure just how much of a difference it would have made yesterday, but
I'm just saying it's a little bit unfair. I'm not saying it would have made a difference. I just think that it would have been fair.
And Wenger's certainly made his point about it. He's made his point about it in the past as well. It's not a new argument. Jack Wilshere's behaviour...
Sorry about that.
You don't need to apologise on this show, John. You do something you shouldn't. Jack Wilshere's behaviour yesterday, the one-fingered salute towards Manchester City supporters, also Mertesacker and Mesut Ozil as Ozil walked off the field. We think that's because he didn't go over to Arsenal supporters to thank them for their support yesterday, which he later did apologise for, Matt. But generally, what was your view on both of those incidents?
I think if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be pleased to see Mertesacker stand up for that. I think that's a sign of a guy who's got the confidence now. I mean, you know, we gave him a hard time when he first came. Here's a guy who clearly thinks, you know, he's part of Arsenal now and wants to be seen as a leader. So obviously Ozil should go over to the fans, but if there's a guy who's standing up and saying this is how we behave here, then if I was an Arsenal fan, I think great. Wilshere's going to get a one-match ban. He can't complain. You know, apparently he was getting some stick. There was a decision that went against him at that time, but that's no excuse. I mean, he's been around enough. He should know you don't do that. Simple as that.
You can't blame players occasionally though for losing it with fans.
They get
right all the time, and then suddenly they turn around, give a finger. Well, yes, okay, you shouldn't do it, but
to be honest, the City fans that saw the finger just laughed.
Yeah,
you know, it was a bit of banter.
But then, it's absolutely. But if you're the FA, I mean, he's going to get. I mean, one game is not. You know, it's not draconian.
One game for one finger.
But after all the same, he's an important player, though, isn't he? And he is an ambassador for the club.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I mean, obviously Arsenal got swamped yesterday, but actually we've been seeing signs where he's been moving around the pitch, and actually he's been enjoying playing in a more floating role, which he hated at first when he was first given. He wanted to be the number 10. He's been moved, to come in from the flank, and actually seems to be thriving on it, which is potentially good news for England.
I think he was very frustrated yesterday, though, and I thought that was born of his frustration. You know.
What was the mood like in the press box yesterday, John? When the goals were flying in, as they did in that second half?
Couldn't count.
No, because people expected better of Arsenal, did they?
Yeah, they did. I mean, it was fantastic, but you don't expect possibly the future champions to lose 6 goals, do you? You know. But I was brought up, you know, with Sean on the attacking football up in the north. You just love it.
Yeah.
Just love it. I mean, I'd like that one team has to score more than the other, but you know, Wenger will be tearing his hair out after that. You know, you should not be conceding 6 goals, and it could have been more.
Yep.
And to be fair, Arsenal could have scored more.
They could have had a couple
goals
more.
as well.
Giroud had a couple of chances, didn't he, in the first half where he could have scored. Want to talk Champions League quickly? Just Pellegrini. If Manchester City could have scored a 4th in the Allianz Arena, it would have been asking a lot, Sean. But should he have known better? Should he have thrown on Aguero to try and get the 4th goal and another famous result to qualify as the first team?
It's amazing for him to be castigated, saying, "Oh, you idiot! You should have got 4 goals in the Allianz Arena." I get you.
From 2-0 down as well.
I get what you're saying, but it was still a pretty good performance. And, you know, I almost felt like saying, oh, well, let him off. I do see the point, but, hey, they're going to have to wear it. But I wouldn't bet against City, whoever they play in the draw, would you?
It's the draw that will show whether he was a bit misguided or stupid. I mean, if they get a horror draw, then obviously that decision is going to look.
But they won't fear anybody at the moment.
It was strange to volunteer it, though, wasn't it? That he should just admit, yeah, you're right, that was my mistake.
He did sarcastically say, though, well, sorry, we only scored 3 goals.
Yeah.
But, you know, with all the staff, you know, in any club, even if he gets it wrong, you'd think that there'd be someone next to him saying, by the way, boss, you do realise this is the score.
But I tell you what, if I was Real Madrid or Barcelona, I wouldn't fancy drawing Manchester City in the round of 16.
No, definitely not. But what about Arsenal? How will they be feeling about the draw and the way that they played, or the way the game finished in Naples on Wednesday night, John? Because now they could play Real Madrid, they could play Barcelona, they could play Bayern Munich, PSG or Atletico Madrid.
Not good, Neil, is it? But they've got this important game against Chelsea. That's where they've got to bounce back, isn't it, in 9 days' time? But, yeah, it's going to be tough for them. And they've got to raise their game, simple as that.
You happy with the kick-off time?
Yeah, absolutely. Monday night, 8 o'clock, no problem.
Next up, we're going to talk about Steve Clarke, one of the good guys. He was sacked by West Brom last